So if you're a libertarian, if you're like a Ron Paul guy or girl out there, you love the 10th Amendment. If you could have babies with the 10th Amendment, you'd have babies with the 10th Amendment. Let's look at the words and then we can talk it out. Here are the words.
The powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution, nor prohibited by it to the states, are reserved to the states respectively or to the people.
So there's the Reserved Powers Amendment. In terms of a mnemonic device, sometimes I'll think of the 10th Amendment as being the last seat in the Bill of Rights, thinking that it's reserved, it's saved for somebody. But basically what this means is that if it's not in the Constitution, if you can't find the power in the delegated portion of the Constitution, which mostly is Article 1, Section 8, which lists congressional powers, then if we don't give it to the federal government, then it gets kicked to the states. Very simple examples would be something like marriage laws or the DMV dealing with driver's licenses. Those are dealt at the state level. Education is basically a reserved powers. Of course, this gets muddied when we start looking at other parts of the Constitution, like the 14th Amendment, which guarantees states treat its citizens equally. So if you're talking about marriage and gay marriage, certainly marriage is a reserved power. The 10th Amendment kicks that to the states, but the states can't deny equal protection, and of course that's a very muddled, weird...
I'm gonna focus on the 10th Amendment, which is, well, okay, let me back up and give you some history. The Bill of Rights was written by this guy. Pretty handsome, right? Well, the hair's a little obnoxious. He's got a big nose. Boom! Much better. Okay, so now that he's styling, what exactly is the 10th Amendment? I mean, no one ever really talks about it. You just hear the 5th and the 2nd, so what is it? The 10th Amendment says this: the powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution, nor prohibited by it to the states, are reserved to the states respectively or to the people. I didn't know what I was saying when I was saying it, so if you got confused, no biggie, I was confused too. Here's what it really means. States' rights. That's what the 10th Amendment is all about. The states have their own rights that the federal government can't interfere with. It's like the state is sitting at a table with a plate of cookies that, represent their rights. And then, a big old fat guy walks in and he's supposed to be the federal government and he's like, "Hey, give me some of those cookies." And the state's like, "Psych, can't." Whips out the 10th Amendment and is like, "Boom, can't take my cookies because they're mine."
Fantastic album, man. Let me borrow it.
No, my brother, you've got to buy your own.
Section 1, that's the important one. So we're going to read it out loud. We might break it up a little bit, but we're definitely going to put it up on the screen for you. So here we go. 14th Amendment, Section 1. All persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and of the state where they reside. Okay, so there you go. Dred Scott is dead, right? So therefore, everybody that was born in the United States, which means all slaves who were born here, are automatic citizens. No state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges or immunities of citizens of the United States. Nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor deny to any person within its jurisdictions the equal protection of the laws. So therefore you have kind of two sections, saying everybody gets equal protection, states, give your citizens equal protection, and don't mess with due process. All right, Plessy v. Ferguson. This is the big one, right? Plessy v. Ferguson is 1896, and it's the first chance that the Supreme Court has to basically use the 14th Amendment to protect a black person from their state government. This is, the test case in federalism and civil rights. And the Supreme Court drops the ball. The Supreme Court states that separate could be equal, but separate but equal in a sense. That if the Separate Car Act is saying, blacks on this train and whites on this train, that doesn't mean that they're not equal separate halves. Now, of course, that's just laughable looking at the surface and the reality of the situation in the South. But nevertheless, the Supreme Court, by doing that, is basically saying that Jim Crow is constitutional. So, therefore, we're going to have, decades and decades of Southern legal segregation and discrimination. Now, we fast forward to 1954, and this is the other court case you need to know. If you're writing an essay, you start with Plessy and you end with Brown versus Board of Ed. And
led by Thurgood Marshall and other young lawyers like Robert Carter, the NAACP Legal Defense Fund was running or aiding cases all over the country. The court picked 5 and consolidated them into one set of arguments, forever known as Brown versus Board of Education of Topeka, Kansas. As oral arguments approached, people camped outside the building to assure themselves a seat in the courtroom. NAACP lawyers Marshall and Carter were up against a formidable adversary, John W. Davis, a former presidential candidate making the last of his 140 appearances at the Supreme Court. But his arguments had a familiar ring. Separate wasn't necessarily unequal. Blacks should be happy with the way things were. Didn't states have the right to educate their children as they saw fit? When the 3 days of arguments were over, Davis was heard to remark, "I think we've got it won, 5-4, or maybe 6-3. The justices scheduled another hearing on the case. But before that could happen, Chief Justice Vincent died of a heart attack. President Eisenhower chose to nominate Earl Warren, formerly the governor of California. On May 17, 1954, there were signs. Some of the justices' wives showed up. Some clerks were tipped off. Then reporters rushed the courtroom.
Warren starts off in a bland manner, and you can't tell for a while as he's delivering the opinion what the outcome is going to be. And then he comes to the key line and he says, "And we unanimously hold that separate but equal has no place in the Constitution." And it was just electric in the courtroom when he said unanimous.
We conclude that in the field of public education, the doctrine of separate but equal has no place. Separate educational facilities are inherently unequal. Therefore, we unanimously hold that the plaintiffs are deprived of the equal protection of the laws guaranteed by the 14th Amendment. Plessy v. Ferguson in education is no more, and in practice, Plessy v. Ferguson itself is no more. The era of Jim Crow, constitutionally speaking, is...
Have you ever heard of Amendment 14? No. Well, let me tell you in song. Oh yeah, Here we go. Here in America, we got Amendment 14, protecting citizens' valiant equality. It's for your grandpa, your mother, your brothers, your aunts. Everybody has the right to dance.
Oh, I see, but if it's about dancing, then how does it pertain to me?
Oh, buddy, you don't understand. Amendment 14 makes equality grand. It all started long ago. North and South fighting to and fro. The North prevailed.
Their mission?
To have slavery assailed. That's how Amendment 14 comes into play. Added to our Constitution to save the day. We're all treated the same, preserving life, liberty, and the right to a proper name.
Well, Mr. Terman, that's all fine and grand, but why can't I change the perfect my demand?
Well, you see, Tekamesh, I'm not done. Amendment 14 has a little more fun. A state can't create or enforce any law that abridges the privileges or immunities of the citizens of the United States. Look, there's a macaw.
Amendment 14 states that any person born in the U.S. or naturalized is a U.S. citizen.
Well, Mr. Terman, what's the big deal? Why can't my law be made for real.
Vaporizing people has taken away life.
Can we at least have their things?
Well, I bet you think that'd be nice.
Yeah, I do, and I'm a lord. I should get to decide.
Sorry, pal. My words don't lie. You can take away possessions without due process. Don't even think about there's a need to call a caucus.
So that's it? That's